Homelessness is worsening over time.
If you don't have a home, you really can't focus on other parts of your life.
Our children are our future because we are the present.
You're one really bad day away from being homeless.
Folks that you walk past on the street, they're somebody's family member.
Housing, education, people. Those are game changers. We have the money, the intellect, the passion. We can do this.
Hi, my name is Hannon, and I'm the host of The Bells I Hear, an audio and video podcast that aims to raise awareness about the homelessness crisis in New York City and the complexity surrounding the issue. Thanks so much for tuning in. Today, we have Julissa Grozozski-Torres joining us. She has a total of 15 years of experience working with youth. She started her career with youth peer advocacy, which was for 7 years, and then went into peer specialist work, working with youth that are experiencing first episode psychosis. She's founded an organization called Triumph Over Struggles to help support youth and family experiencing complex challenges in their lives. Thank you for joining us today, Julissa.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yes, we would love to hear more about your journey into youth advocacy work, like what sort of inspired you to enter that space.
So with the youth advocacy work, it was actually by chance. When I was 16, I had a psychiatric hospitalization that was actually very long. I was in a city hospital for 11 and a half months and then got transferred to the state hospital for 4.5 months. So a total of like 16 months. And then I went to a group home. The day I went to the group home, they were all going out to this meeting, like a support group meeting at Office of Mental Health in the city. So they took me along with them, and in the meeting, I was just like myself and answering questions, talking, engaging, and, saying it was like a support group for kids in group homes and in the system. So you kind of talk about what's going on and what's what are the issues, how to address it. And afterwards, the person that was conducting it came to me and was like, how would you like a job as a youth advocate? At that time, I was just 17 and I was like, oh, that would be nice. I just saw money. I was like, okay, cool. I know what it entailed until I started doing more of the work and going to different meetings. I would go to Albany and talk to legislators and go to the Capitol with signs and doing protests and stuff, which was very fun earlier on. And then I got into direct care, and I think my passion is it's just me. I've always seen, even when I was in the hospital before I knew any about this, I would advocate for other patients that were there. I would be like, that's not right, and try to help and try to support. And it was just something that was just natural in me. And I think this work it's not really work, it's like a passion. So it's just something I love doing, and just supporting, the people through the system. I've been through it. It's complicated. It's hard. It's tiring.
Right.
And sometimes having people there to help you navigate can really be helpful with providing hope, because things can drag on for a long time and it can get discouraging.
That's amazing that it kind of felt like it fit like a glove. It's something that sort of, it was natural to you. I mean, what has sort of kept you within this field after, all this time? It's been 15 years. I'm assuming you would want to stay in the field. What keeps you going?
So basically, that was the whole purpose of me coming out with Triumph Over Struggles, Advocacy and Consulting, which is now with that, I just want to be able to reach more people and help more people, and also help youth advocates navigating, because as a youth advocate, you cannot stay within your role after you're 30 years old, because you're technically not a youth anymore, which is understandable, So at that point, the transition is to a peer specialist. So within my agency too, I like to be able to support youth advocates through that transition, because it can also be complicated trying to navigate that while also working. I think just trying to reach people that are not what I'm seeing in working in direct care, for instance. I work direct care too. There's so many gaps within the system. And if you don't fit this criteria, you can't get help. You can't get the help from these services. You may not quite fit it, but you may still need that support.
Right.
And I think that's where I'm trying to come in with my organization. I just started it up this year, so it's brand new.
Yeah.
But it's definitely stemming from my work that I just do every day and I've been doing. I did take a break when I gave birth to my daughter for like, I think it was a year or two. I was like looking for work. It was hard, but at that point I did go back to school. So I tried that. But school has also been a struggle for me because like my ADHD and now things are much better. So I do plan on returning back to school. I've went back to school and then I came out of school and I went back to school.
Yeah.
So I keep going back in, but I definitely would love to. It's just, I have 2 kids.
Right.
That's what makes it a little bit more. And I think they're the ones that also keep me going because like if I'm navigating the system and I'm helping people, like my kids have neurodivergence as well. Like my son does have autism. So he has a lot of services that I'm trying to help him navigate: OPWDD, an IEP in school, home care services, ABA, speech therapy, OT, physical therapy, like all of that. So I think just the fact that I'm still navigating it for my kids and for myself, because I still go to therapy, I still see a psychiatrist, I still navigate stuff for myself medically as well. Like, might as well continue to help those and see where the issues are within the system and try to like advocate still along the way for the changes, because like the kids are the future and they're going to have to go through this.
That's amazing that you're trying to kind of fill those gaps with triumph struggles. Could you tell us a little bit about what does the name represent to you and like where does it come from?
So actually, Triumph Over Struggles, I also have it tatted on my arm.
Oh, wow.
So
It's amazing.
It's basically something that just hit me one day, and it's been with me, I think, since I was in the hospital when I was a teenager. Like, it was just something like triumph over struggles. Like, it's like my life has been a bunch of struggles since I was born. I lost my mom. I was in foster care from a young age, got adopted, went through some unfortunate circumstances in the adopted home, which caused more trauma. And then I went back to the hospital, went back into foster care. Yeah. So there's just been a lot of obstacles I've had to endure that, unfortunately, like, it just is. And I've just had to triumph over them. And I think like OVA standing for optimism, vulnerability, and adaptability, because I've just had to be optimistic. I've had to be vulnerable, and I've had to be adaptable to just get through and kind of triumph over the struggles. And that's just the reality. Yeah. So I feel like that's kind of where it came from, deep from my story. Right. They may not have the voice right now to speak up. They may not feel safe enough, but I want to give them that opportunity to feel safe enough to use their voice and to speak up for their need.
Now, could you share a bit about your experience within the foster care system?
Hi. So within the foster care system, I want to say that earlier on, when I was 6 years old, I was in a agency. I don't know if I can say names of agencies. Maybe I can. In Brooklyn, St. Vincent Services. They weren't quite the best, so to say. After I was in 2 different homes, I went to the adopted home. They adopted me when I was 12, but I was living with them from the age of 8. In that home, there was things going on. I did not feel comfortable talking to anyone at St. Vincent Services. They would try to force me to do like play therapy, and I'm like, I don't want this therapy. I don't like this. and I couldn't ever change.
Could you explain what play therapy is for people that may
not know? Basically, like, so basically, like, it's like they give me like dolls or stuff, or they give you art to draw, but you're not really like talking or processing anything. Okay. Even though I was young, I didn't like that. Like, I wanted to talk. And like the therapist really wouldn't, and I didn't like them and I didn't connect with them. So I just didn't really like the help that they would try to give me. I didn't also know how to communicate that I was having abuse going on in the home at the time to them, because I didn't feel safe with them. After I was adopted, they were out my life. I stayed in the home for another 4 years at that point. And then I went back into foster care when I got hospitalized, because I told them about what was going on. They opened the ACS case. And at that point, in that ACS case, because there was the ACS case opened a year prior, but then they closed it. Right now, I can't talk about that specific part, but when I was in the hospital, that I wound up having an ACS case opened, and then I met a foster parent there, but I felt I wasn't ready to go into foster care at that time. I wound up staying, going to state hospital, going to a group home, and then back into foster care. With that agency, it was SCO, which was really good. Really good in the sense compared to a lot of other agencies at the time. You know, they did try to provide me the support. They did change my therapist if I didn't like it. They did change my psychiatrist if I wasn't comfortable. They tried with the resources they had. And, you know, to this day, I'm still like connected with them in a lot of ways. I still go back. I do workshops for them. I spoke to like foster parents a lot. Yeah. I used to do it more regularly before COVID, but, you know, COVID changed everything. So... But yeah, the foster care, and at that point, I went through 5 different foster homes when I was a teenager. It's hard to find a foster home when you're a teenager. Yeah. And my behaviors weren't the best. I was going through a lot of trauma. I was on the wrong medication because like they were treating more my behaviors than the ADHD. You know, so some issues like that. But it turned out like I did learn a lot from the therapist I had there, and some of the foster parents I connected with were like, there was 2 of them I built a connection with. Yeah. The difficulty is they didn't have a lot of homes, and I didn't understand that at the time. So I thought they just were not trying to find me a home at my age. Sometimes I will go sleep in like JFK Airport in the air train area, like because I didn't want to stay in the home I was in. Or I will go to the ER, go to CPEP. CPEP is a psychiatric hospital. Like, let's say, like Elmhurst has a CPEP. Certain hospitals have more comprehensive psychiatric evaluation, but some places don't. So I will go, like, to different hospitals and do that because I didn't want to sleep on the streets too much. I didn't want to stay in the home I was in. And, like, but it was just because lack of resources, not because they didn't really want to find me. It's just they didn't have, you know. And it sucks because there's a lack of homes out there.
How do you feel like, I know you mentioned that you bounced around like 5 different foster care homes. How do you feel like that has shaped you or has affected you or impacted you?
Honestly, I can say it's definitely impacted me because like it's kind of what's coming out now. Like I'm having to move again. I'm in supportive housing. I'm trying to pack up. And there's right now very limited sense of control I have over where I'm moving to. And I have my kids and stuff. And it brings all of that back up because I would never know where I was moving to or who I was. So it brings that up. And then the uncertainty is like, I'm just learning not to live out of bags. And it's many, many years later. But like I used to live out of bags all the time just because it was just like, I just bring a bag with me to the night. It did impact me for many years. Also, my executive functioning skills. Like I do have ADHD, but I do struggle with a lot of executive functioning stuff, like organizing my space and knowing kind of what to filter, what to throw out, what not to throw out. You know, things like that, which are all skills that you kind of learn when you have more consistency. But I didn't have that, so I didn't learn it.
Yeah. That's something that like, I guess if you are used to doing things a certain way and you're kind of like, you know, wired that way, then it's something that like might follow you throughout life. And it's, I don't know, it's sort of devastating that like just foster care systems can't fulfill the needs of the kids. I guess what do you think are some of like the biggest misconceptions about, you know, youth within the foster care system?
That they're acting out for attention. So if you want to get technical, there is attention needs because like basic needs as a human, you need affection, you need love, you need connection. These are needs. So that attention is for needs that these kids have not had met, you know, and trying to understand that versus it's just a behavior because they don't want to do X, Y, and Z, you know, or because of X, Y, and Z, you know, like it connected to something deeper and more like within the trauma of not having those connections, not having those bonds. And the foster kids, they are going to test you. They're going to test their limit. It just is what it is, what kids do in general, you know. But then you got kids that also have adult-like survival instinct, adult-like survival skills, because they were forced into that. It's not because they're mature. Emotionally, they may not be at that level of maturity, but they've had to adapt because of circumstances. So they may be advanced in some areas, but they may be delayed in other areas, and understanding that, and not just because they may not be capable of that.
Yeah.
You know, so trying to see that there may be some delays that are not really apparent
Mhm.
due to all the fractured connections in life and the trauma.
Yeah. It's really interesting. It's like a kid should be allowed to just be a kid, but it's like now that they're in the system, maybe there's like some like expectations that are placed on them, but it's like they're going through, more challenges than like, youth that aren't in the foster care system and like should be given grace.
Yeah,
And I wish the system was like more understanding of that.
definitely.
I know you mentioned you are in supportive housing now. How was that transition from, the foster care system into supportive housing?
Right now, currently, I'm 32 years old. So, very young. When I aged out right before I was 21. I was still 20. And I moved into a supportive housing residence with ICL called Livonia in East New York. So when I lived there, that was like transition. That was from foster care. I wound up getting pregnant and I couldn't stay there. So then they moved me to a different program. The program I'm currently in is called HOPWA. It's housing for people with AIDS. I was born with HIV. Both my parents were drug users. My kids are negative. I can't transmit it because I'm, undetectable. So it's untransmittable. You equals you. But basically, within this program is federal funds. So now, when Trump was in office before, there was a lot of budget cuts to the program. Mm-hmm. And these programs, the grants can last maybe 5 years or so, give or take. So it's coming up on that time where this grant is now at the end, and I'm having to move to a different agency completely because this agency is not keeping this contract anymore because the funds were cut and they can't maintain it. It's hard, which is understandable. So with the new agency, there's been a lot of difficulties already, and I'm trying to gate it, but they were trying to just move me anywhere and uproot me all the way to the other end of Brooklyn. I live in Brooklyn, and I have kids that go to school, and both my kids have IEPs and their school, so they have their supports in schools. My son also has a lot of high support needs. So in the home, he has speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy, and home attendant services every single day. Now, it took me, to say, almost 2 years to get all of that in place. And it's been in place since January. I've had everyone set since January. No changes. It's been stable. And they only do certain areas of Brooklyn. And those areas are the areas I would need to be in for my kids' schooling. They do get busing, but the OPT, which is Office of Pupil Transportation in New York, they're not reliable, and sometimes they don't send replacement buses. The first 2 weeks of school, sometimes a month, there's no busing or the buses is messed up. You have to take the kids to school yourself. And if I'm too far, both my kids will be late. I work full time. I work for the city. So it's I can't just change my hours, deduct my hours. It's set, what I have to do. So it's I need to be within certain areas in general to be able to I can take my daughter here, then take my son there. So it could be smoother and make it easier if I need to whatever in the morning or pick them up for that time. And it's the agency is not understanding that, but it's supposed to be therapeutic. So it's bringing up a lot of that stuff from the housing instability when I was in foster care.
Yeah,
definitely.
I can't even imagine it's sort of you're reliving that, especially with a lot of the uncertainty and I don't know, you're just dealing with the burden of you're moving to a place, or you could potentially move to a place that's much farther away from what you're used to and what's like familiar to you and also what's most convenient to you. And now it's like making your life much harder. And so,
Yeah. I worry about burnout for
yeah, really. Okay.
you know, like it took a lot of phone calls to get all those services in place, and like it would have to happen all over again in a new area. And then I worry about regression for my son, with his transition.
Right. Because in the past, it's sort of like you were taking care of yourself. Now it's like you have other people to worry about.
If it was just me, I'll move out the option. I'm revenge where I'd be like, fine.
Right.
But no, it's about my kid. And I'm not going to have them uprooted, and then have regression, because the staff are not going to be dealing with that. I am.
Yeah.
And so like I'm trying to be mindful and trying to work with them.
So what are some of the like big, systemic challenges of the foster care system that like, I don't know, you would change? Like what are some of the things that like, if it was within your power that you would, improve about the system?
I think the number one thing, and this is something I was fighting for earlier on when I was a youth advocate, was for the youth to get like either a bank account. The parents do get paid. There can be a portion of that that's automatically saved into an account that the youth gets when they age out. Like, I think that's something that should be standard, because when you age out, they're supposed to give you stuff, but sometimes it doesn't happen. And you're left to your own devices, which is not good. Because you don't really have any support. You're coming out of the system. So like at least have a nice solid bank account that from when you first enter the system, they put a set amount in there. And so when you leave, you have an account, you have something set up. I think that's more important. Like, yes, there can be an allowance given to the child as well, which I think should be standard. But I think a savings account should be more priority, at the point. But also like having an allowance can also teach the parent to budget with the child, and the child can learn how to budget their money and save, save and do smart spending and stuff. So I think those are things that should be mandatory. They do try to make it mandatory for some of them, but it's like incentivized. Like you meet with the worker, you get like a card, like a gift card or something. But it's like, I think it should just be standardized in like everything.
It is a life skill.
Yeah. Filing taxes, like all these different things, I think are skills that the agencies should be providing. Or having the parents provide and show proof that they're doing it.
Because without it, you're kind of just like throwing them into the deep end, and like you've never been taught these skills, and it's difficult to navigate the outside world. So, you've been working with youth for a very long time now.
And young adults. I work with people up to the age of...
So how does your lived experience sort of help you build trust with the youth and young adults that you work with?
I think that speaking their language is essential. Like understanding where they're coming from, not necessarily like you have to speak like slang or whatever, but like, just understanding where they're coming from, giving them that space to talk. Like your experience is not their experience. Your experience is like, my experience is my experience. It's nobody else's experience. Nobody can take away my experience. I can't take away somebody else's experience. And there can be some overlap, but how we could go through the exact same thing, and how I interpret it could be different than how you interpret it. So leaving that space open, but also just being transparent in myself. Like none of my story, I don't just go there and tell the people I'm working with my whole story straight off the bat. No. I see like what they've been through, and I share those similar parts. To kind of build that trust. But I'm an open book. So ask me questions and I'll answer, and I'll tell you. If I feel like it's not appropriate to answer, I'll tell you that too. But I will definitely, we will have a conversation. And I think that helps build trust. And then also showing them how to advocate. Like a lot of the work that I do is also teaching the youth to also advocate to their providers for what they need, what they want. If they're feeling like the medication is not quite working, or if they're not working right, they're not feeling right on it, advocating to your doctors, understanding what's going on, educating yourself. So a lot of what I do is also education and teaching them how to like self-advocate.
So you work with people when they're often in their most vulnerable states, and I'm sure you carry their stories with you. Does it take an emotional toll?
Definitely, it does take an emotional toll. I want to say, like, as a peer specialist, you know, you're basically living with your own trauma on your sleeve.
Yeah.
Like, as you're doing your work, you're having to refer back to it. So it has to be present a lot, so that being present, and then you're also empathetic with the person you're working with and you're feeling for them. I think the biggest thing that I've realized within my career is that, you can't want something more than the person wants it for themselves. You can give them all the resources, you can plant that seed,
Yeah.
but until they're ready to water it and they're ready, there's nothing you can do. So I've just been realizing and trying to decipher like those that really want the support and is doing all the footwork and wants, and I will go more than 100% and do everything with them, and support them. But then with other people that are like, yeah, I want the services, I want the support, but then like, we're giving them, but they're not wanting to do anything. I'm still there as a support, but I'm not going to do everything for you. So I think just realizing that balance and learning that balance is big, to help keep that emotional toll to more of a minimum.
Yeah.
But definitely, like, I have my own therapist. So it's something that I can process and stuff, which is essential. But like, I love what I do. So I think that makes it also a little easier,
Right.
just realistically.
Yeah, it must be amazing to just like give back and help youth, but meeting them where they're at, obviously.
Yeah, exactly.
So, has there been a moment with someone that you've mentored or, a youth or young adult that you worked with that like shifted your perspective or taught you something?
All right. So I have this one youth that I worked with when I was working for the hospital system. He was struggling with a lot of anxieties and stuff, and he pushed through like a champion and faced his goal, attempted to do what he feared most and did it and accomplished it. And seeing that helped me to decide, like, that's also when my medication journey shifted. And I started looking into like, wait, these things may not be right. And like trying to get off of the meds and changing meds. And like, he really opened my eyes up because I was also very fearful and very scared, but I didn't also realize that until like helping and supporting him working through that. In the end, it also like kind of helped me in the back end to have that courage to jump. And now he's like a peer specialist and doing amazing.
It's really amazing. Like he inspired you and now he's gonna inspire other youth to sort of learn something about themselves.
Yeah.
So, what does triumph mean now in your season of life or season of your life?
I think triumphing right now is, I'm getting chills thinking about it. Like, I think it's just making it through and supporting my kids while breaking the generational cycles that I went through. I'm not like, I don't consider myself like 100% the best parent. Like, no, like everyone's imperfect, but I do have conversations with, especially like my daughter, and like I communicate, I apologize, like, we talk, I express when I'm feeling stressed, when I need space, I express my boundaries. And I think a lot of that is just trying to keep the space open for my kids to come to me and feel safe and comfortable, because I never had that. So I think it's just figuring out how to parent my kids and mother my kids when I really didn't have that support in the ways that I needed, and in the ways that, like, my adopted mother supported me as best as she could with the resources she had, but it definitely wasn't, it did cause a lot more, I want to say emotional issues than it could have, and I'm working through that. So it's kind of difficult, with working with the kids and also work. So I think it's just like the triumph over struggles is like through this season is like kind of getting through that and helping my children navigate school, navigate peer pressure, navigate bullying, navigating their supports and their emotional stuff. And
That's very beautiful for you to have gone through everything that you've gone through, and you're coming out on top and being a role model for your children. I think that's so amazing. And yeah, it's been so wonderful having you on, Julissa. Just to hear your story and your experiences is really amazing. To hear about everything that you overcame and you jumpstart a triumph over struggle and like what it represents is incredible. So thank you so much for coming on to The Bells I Hear.
thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure. And, also getting to know you a little bit too. So thank you so much. And thank you for doing this because I think just having this platform is necessary. And, you're gonna blossom. It's amazing. Your podcast is great.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. The episode was hosted by me, Hannah Nabraja, produced by Baron Mello. The audio and video editing was done by Ilona Tuominen, and the music is courtesy of Diego Urquela. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe to The Bells I Hear and follow us on social media at The Bells I Hear to find more content and to spread the word. Thanks again. Till next time.